What's up guys, Lifting here, just a quick update on the Siege Ballista Doomfletch Prism build. I have taken it into maps now. This is a tier 9 Gorge map, but as you guys can see the damage is actually really good compared to the cost that it is taking me to get this rolling. I've made a few changes. So first of all, I now have a Rat's Nest to increase my critical strike chains. My critical strike chains for the Siege Ballista is 67.46 with the Golem up. When I have my Diamond Flask up, I think it's around 90% or something like that. But I also have, or I've added in a power charge on crit setup to my curse setup. So the way this works is that my Frenzy grants me Frenzy charges, which increases the damage and attack speed of the ballistas. Then together with Frenzy, I'm using power charge on critical. So we can obtain power charges, which increases our critical strike chains. And when my 3 power charges are up, I think I have around 80% critical strike chains. And then on top of that, you of course have the Righteous Providence here, which grants another 100% increased critical strike chains against enemies that are unaffected by elemental status ailments. So I think, I'm not sure what it is, but it's probably around 85, 90. And then when using Diamond Flask at that point, we pretty much have around 100% crit chain. So it's really nice, or 95 top right. And then together with the power charge on crit, I'm also using greater multiple projectiles. So yeah, it looks something like this. So we can hit additional enemies. I'm using Assassin's Mark, so we apply the curse. So obviously I don't get the power charges from that, but it still increases the damage of the ballistas by making crit still more damage. And then curse on hit, of course, so it works like that. My current setup with the Siege Ballista is Siege Ballista, faster attacks, less multiple projectiles, weapon elemental damage, and increased critical strike support. And then on top, to scale the damage to elemental damage, I'm using Herald of Ice as well. I have recently spec'd into mana flows. I do not need to run Clarity to sustain it. I'm not sure if I want to do that though. I can spec out these 2 points and probably just use a low level Clarity and then use these points on something else. Another thing I've done is that I've added in static electricity here. So as you guys can see, this adds 1 till 82 lightning damage to attacks, which makes a very big difference when you scale elemental damage like we do. And one thing I'll say here, as I mentioned in the previous video as well, is that you cannot trust the tooltip DPS of what you see right now, because the converted damage, or the physical damage that's converted into elemental damage, does not appear down here. So it's much higher than what you see here. But to give an indication of how effective something like static electricity is just by its own, we can see that with it we have around 5000 DPS. When we take this out, it is 3600. So it makes a pretty big difference. And then of course that is scaled further with weapon LA and things like that. I'm using a Rat's Nest now to scale the critical strike chains. It's not really necessary, but it's nice. It also increases attack speed, and as I've spoken or talked about in previous Siege Ballista videos, I once did a review of the skill. Attack speed is really king when it comes to Siege Ballistas. You want to have a decent amount of attack speed, otherwise it just feels meh. To further increase that, I'm also using Wall Haste, which makes a very nice difference. And because we're killing stuff so much or so fast, it almost feels like you have a permanent uptime on Wall Haste. One thing I am considering is actually adding 2 Wall Hastes in, just so I can pretty much run permanently, similar to what you do when you're using SRS. And then besides that, I have Maligaro's Virtuosity. They're not necessary, but when you are an Inquisitor, you really want to have that probably 80-90% chance to crit, because when you do or deal these criticals, you ignore the enemy's elemental resistances, and that is just such a huge damage boost. And in this case, it's ignoring fire, cold, and lightning resistance. So it makes a very big difference since we're dealing all forms of elemental damage. And yeah, as I said, I'm using a Diamond Flask to scale this further. On the jewelry, I'm just still having flat physicals and life and so forth. I have some added elemental damage onto this together with physical damage, and the same for the amulet. And this is pretty much how I scale it so far, and it's just trucking through everything. Even bosses feel, you know, fairly fast to kill. It's definitely not the strongest point, but it feels pretty good still. And that was one of my main concerns previously when I used Siege Ballistas. I'm also using Rain of Splinters, so we can get those 2 additional projectiles. This greatly increases the clear speed overall when using Siege Ballista, so it's definitely recommendable. But anyway, guys, I just want to give you an update on this. It's going well so far. Once I take it into a few higher levels, I want to get it to probably 88 or 89, maybe 90. I'll make a final build video, and I will show you the final skill tree and the final gear. And we will of course test it out in like some tier 13, 14, or maybe even tier 15 map if I can get a hold of it, to see how it holds up. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and bros, do you even? Yes, we're going out there.